Hi there, students. To cut something back. To cut back, two words. A cutback, noun, all one word. So if you cut back something, you cut back on something, you reduce the amount of it you use, particularly with spending. So we need to cut back on our expenses this month. The government needs to cut back on spending on the health service, for example. I need to cut back on the amount of fat and sugar in my diet to reduce. Okay, so it's not only money. And then we have cutbacks. Okay, a cutback is a reduction in something, normally to save money. So the closure of several factories are the latest cutbacks made by the company. The government has made cutbacks in its expenditure on education. So if you cut back on something, you cut back sugar, you cut back on sugar, is to reduce the amount or quantity of something, but particularly money. If you cut back on calories, then you should lose weight. Many people like to, rather than giving up smoking directly, they slowly cut back until they finally give up. So a cutbacks, a noun, the act of reducing something, a reduction in something. Okay, so cutbacks. The company has announced cutbacks in production because sales have been falling. There have been big cutbacks in the number of people being dealt with by this office. There have been cutbacks within the workforce, and now there are less workers. There's been a further round of production cutbacks this year. Okay, there is going to be a cutback in the amount of travelling done by employees this year. So a cutback, something cut back, a reduction, a cutback in funding, a reduction in the amount of something. So the managers are going to cut back on meetings. They're going to cut back on the number of meetings. Now, let's see. The literal meaning, you cut something back. So these trees have grown dramatically, and we need to cut them back to reduce them. Also, if you are in a film and maybe you are filming a certain scene, and then this scene cuts back to a previous situation, to cut back to something that happened before. Also, perhaps in sport, somebody who's running with the ball could cut back, move suddenly in the opposite direction to try to avoid the person who's trying to catch them. Okay, so to cut back on expenditure, you reduce it. The government has cut back on defence spending. We've been cutting back a bit to stay within our budget. And then a cutback, one word, or maybe hyphened as well, a reduction in something. Okay, there have been cutbacks in staff announced, staff cutbacks. Okay, so to cut something back, to prune the end of it, to make a reduction in something, or in a film to show an event that took place earlier, a cutback. Okay, the government has announced plans to cut back on defence spending by 10%. I smoke much too much. I must cut back. I must cut back on cigarettes. So cut back intransitive, cut back on something. Um, we must cut back our expenses. It hasn't rained for many months and we need to cut back on water usage. The doctor told me to cut back on red meat. Okay, so to reduce, to make a reduction in. Okay, so let's see. You need to cut back. I think I'm going to give this a 4 informality. The government have been making cutbacks. 4.5 informality. Use informally, semi-formal conversation, semi-formal writing, but stop there. And the idea to cut back.